Reddit tree presents paranormal activities. First event. A being saved my life. I will spare y'all the gruesome details, but my grandfather was a sadistic, violent predator. To cover up an affair, my dad dropped me there for the weekend. Mom thought we were camping. Grandfather abused me terribly. I was 8. When I regained consciousness, I screamed at him that I would tell what he had done. That pissed him off, so he dragged me outside in the middle of the night, and tied me to one of those old, metal lawn chairs. It was autumn and it was drizzling outside. I was so cold that night. I'm pretty sure I had hypothermia. I just remember shaking and that the wet and cold hurt. I was going to die. I felt it. Then there was a bright, blue light. Out of it stepped a tall, thin woman with black hair, cut straight and straight bangs. She was wearing white and had a bead necklace. She walked over to me and touched my face, then hugged me. Her skin was so soft and she was so warm. Then she stood behind me. I expected she would untie me and we would go into the light. I thought I was dead. Instead, she put her arms around me, and she had colorful wings. I remember being shocked because I thought angel wings were white. I immediately got warm, and dry. My muscles relaxed and the aches and pains from grandfather eased. I can still feel the warmth that I felt. I can still remember her floral smell. I never in my life before or since felt as safe as I did in her arms/wings. She stayed until morning. I think grandfather forgot me because he came running out at dawn. He commented that I must have gotten loose because I was dry and everything was still wet out. In high school we were studying Egyptian mythology. I saw a painting of Iset, Isis, for the first time and knew it was her that had saved my life. To this day, I have a statue of her in my living room to show thanks for saving me. Second event. I'm scared of my dead grandpa. Or at least I hope it's him. Now me and my grandpa were really close. More than once he said that I'm his favorite grandchild. We often went to the local graveyard, which seems more like a park because of how huge the terrain is, and spent time there, just the two of us. He ended up being buried there as well. He told me many stories from his past and shared his thoughts with me. But there was one thing he told me again and again ever since I can remember that has always stood out to me. Now you have to know he was suicidal his whole life. He always told me that we would go meet the angels soon and that it was supposed to be so beautiful there that he wanted to experience it with me by his side, that only there he could truly protect me from any harm because nothing could hurt me there. He also said that we would be gone for a very long time if we did go there. Later in life I realized he was thinking of committing a murder-suicide, but he never went through with it because he just couldn't hurt me in the end. Good for me. Fast forward, I'm in my 20s now and he has died a couple years ago of old age. I inherited some things. His whole professional camera set, photography was his passion, which is now too old to actually be of use to me, some photographs and his coin collection which was his biggest treasure. A year after his death I visited his grave for the first time and had a breakdown. I asked him why he would just leave me behind and that he had promised that we would go together. And I'm starting to believe that saying that was a mistake because ever since then things went downhill for me. Every time I walk through that graveyard now I feel watched and uncomfortable, like something unfriendly is following me. I also smell his scent in the breeze when I feel followed. I've heard his voice calling my name more than once, and recently some of his coins are disappearing and reappearing. I've started having these really weird dreams of my grandpa as well, and I often feel a huge sadness in my chest for no real reason. I'm also hearing footsteps when I'm alone at home that have a limp to their step just like my grandpa had because of an accident. None of those things happened before his death or before my first visit to his grave. I'm scared that I'm in danger because there is no warmth coming from whatever this is. I can feel that something isn't quite right and I don't know what to do. Third event. Sleep paralysis or paranormal activity. I'm all very new to this, and if I'm being very honest I'm a bit of a skeptic when it comes to these things, but this happened to me just yesterday. It felt like I had sleep paralysis at first. I couldn't move and I could feel someone standing over the top of me, just watching me. I just kind of ignored it and knew it was just a sleep paralysis episode. As it happens every now and then to me. But very shortly after I felt this cold, like fucking freezing cold, like I was in the snow. I had a jumper and long pants on under the heavy blanket. There was no reason for me to be that cold. I had chills and I was shaking, and at this point I'm feeling very much awake. Which is where it gets interesting because I started to feel this pressure on me, holding me down, and I couldn't do anything. there was this screaming sound in my ear the whole time and I started to not be able to breathe like I was being choked. I wanted to scream out but I couldn't do anything at all. Then it all just stopped, the sound of screaming, the pressure, the cold, I was able to breathe again. I jumped out of my bed and ran out of the room and I was just shaking. I felt so off. It happened at around 2 a.m. on the dot because I remember checking my phone after going back in my room to get it. It felt eerie even going into my room after that. I was literally shook all day yesterday about this and stayed at my girlfriend's house last night. I'm not sure if this has any relevance, but my grandmother died on my birthday 3 years ago and we visited her grave on the day of her anniversary. My little brother and I were looking around at old graves and tombs. We didn't do anything disrespectful, he was just interested. So I don't think there is any relation to that. But this happened a day after. My question is this, was this a really crazy sleep paralysis episode or was this something paranormal? Could it have all been real? Because it felt very real and it felt like I was awake the entire time. I'm still pretty shook as I've never experienced anything like that in my life. Last but not the least event. My uncle's house. My uncle's house. I would like to preface the story by saying that in boarding school or college, I can't remember exactly which, my uncle was playing a game of Ouija with his friends and claims they briefly encountered a demonic spirit. My uncle Jim moved to Miami in the late 90s and worked as a waiter. In the early to mid 2000s he became a realtor. My uncle did pretty well for himself, never got married or had kids, and was able to buy a nice house in South Beach. He and his dog lived in the house alone. Uncle Jim never reported any odd activity in the house until he decided to put a pool in the backyard. He now believes that someone was buried in that backyard and he disturbed the spirit. A few months after putting the pool in, Jim started to notice some paranormal activities that became more prevalent. At first his dog would bark uncontrollably at nothing. Dogs tend to sense spirits. Time went on, and things got weirder. My uncle's entertainment system would turn on, TV, surround sound speakers that had to be manually turned on, would randomly turn on and off. My grandmother, no bullshit lady, also experienced the sound system, TV, and random light flickering while staying at the house alone. Jim said things got weirder. His garage even opened and closed while he was home at times. I know what you're thinking, shitty electrician, nothing paranormal. One night my uncle woke to a medicine ball rolling across his bedroom, with all doors and windows shut. When he got up he thought he heard a conversation in the guest room down the hall. I also got a really eerie feeling in that guest room, and at times he said he thought he heard people speaking in there. Fast forward a few months and Jim was visiting us for Christmas and showed us a picture of a blood stain on the wall, which was a straight line with a slight smudge at the bottom. It was about as wide and long as a straw, and there was no sign it came from a fly or anything in the house. The stain was on the wall above the stairs higher than anyone could reach. It didn't come from him, or his dog. My uncle returned to Miami and things got more bizarre. He started to wake up in the middle of the night with the TV in his bedroom blasting white noise and a gray screen. He claims that one night he saw a face of an old man on the screen. Jim called the cable guy to come fix his TV. When the cable guy came to fix the TV he pointed out to my uncle that there was a crack forming on the ceiling above his bed. When my uncle had a carpenter come check out the crack, they did some investigating and figured out it was a stress crack. The beams in the ceiling directly above Jim's bed were slowly concaving and was believed to collapse completely in the near future if not fixed. Uncle Jim moved out of the house a few months later. The women who bought the house from him died only a few months later inside in the house. I don't remember what her cause of death was. My uncle believes the spirit on the TV was warning him of impending danger.